Today, we're back in the British Columbia wilderness for another epic adventure in one of the most breathtaking spots in Canada. This time, our mission was to spend the night up in the alpine. With my Forester and Jeff's Crosstrek, we'll be tackling overgrown trails and navigating countless switchbacks. The goal? To battle our way through the forest and make it up to the summits. Will we make it to the top, or will the trail shut us down? Stick around to find out. And welcome back to another adventure. Today, you're in for a treat. If you guys have been around since 5,000 subscribers, you might recognize this place. But if you've joined since then, well then this is going to be all new to you. Today we're with Jeff and his Crosstrek and my Forester, and we're going to be exploring beautiful BC. We are deep in South Central BC, and we're going to be exploring this trail right here. As I said, you guys are in for a treat. I don't want to spoil too much, but I can tell you we're hopefully going to make it above the tree line and spend the night camping in the alpine. But that's all saying if we can make it up this trail. So we have to first get up to the alpine, so let's go ahead and hit the trail. With our tires aired down and our hopes high, we set off onto the trail. Navigating through the dense brush, we made our way over the rough terrain as we slowly begin our ascent up the mountain. Meter by meter, we climbed, winding our way through the ever-changing trail. That's definitely a little tight in there. The rain from the past few days left its mark, giving us a taste of the challenge ahead. The water from the recent downpour carved its way through the trail, forcing us over ruts and navigating muddy sections. But after everything we've thrown at these Subarus, this was just another day on the trail. We pressed forwards, snaking deeper into the British Columbia backcountry, crossing through the standing water and tackling the rough climbs without breaking a sweat. And like I said, I have done this trail before. We did this back in 2021 with a fresh lift kit and a set of borrowed wheels and tires. So this is kind of like the return of the Forester with a lot more mods. But as you can see, it is super dense. It's super heavy in here. Like, this is a lot of times often referred to as a side-by-side or ATV trail just because it's so narrow. So this is what happens when you get real deep into BC. We're like a couple hours at least from the nearest point of cell phone service, and the closest town is, I think, probably 20 kilometers, and it's got a population of like 8. So we are in the middle of nowhere, but this is where the fun happens and where you get to see these absolutely amazing places. As I said, we're going to be hitting the alpine today, and we're going to actually be exploring that. So we're still got quite a few switchbacks. We've gained about 400 meters already. We got about another 1,000 to go, but that's kind of what we're looking at. And as we get higher up, we start to lose kind of the brush and start to get into trickier terrain. Like right now, oh, there we go, we just got over this. It's really loose, and we're having to kind of claw through some of the loose stuff, but it's still a lot of fun. As we climbed out of the dense brush, we were rewarded with a breathtaking view of the lake far below us. A reminder of just how much elevation we've already conquered. Now entering the subalpine, the terrain became more challenging. The trail loosened up and the rocks beneath their tires grew rougher, testing both our Subarus and our determination. And well, as you can probably tell, we're getting very high up in the mountains. We're at almost 1,900 meters here, and we still are in what I would consider probably sub-alpine. There's still trees, completely different set of growth to what we were going through before. But as you can kind of see in those mountains, we are kind of like would be topping out on some of those mountains. So we are getting very high up here, and we're almost at the alpine. I think we got a couple more switchbacks, and it's this weird mix of, you'll find like hard to drive switchbacks where they're like loose and gravelly, and then you'll find like right now this is not difficult at all. This is something that if you're really confident, you could probably drive it in a two-wheel drive vehicle. But then there's other spots where it's loose and steep that no way that's happening. So it's quite a mix of trail, but it's an absolutely amazing trail. This is honestly like one of my favorite trails. I was looking forward to getting out here for a few years now, and I'm glad we're finally able to do it, and get to show you guys this amazing place. As I said, it's super remote, so not a lot of people get there, so it's not trafficked a lot, and it's a really just beautiful place, as you can tell. And now that it's fall, we actually get some really nice views.
Switchback after switchback, we quickly gained elevation, zigzagging through the sub-alpine terrain. It wasn't long before we found our first sign that no one's been up here since the storm. A fallen tree sprawled across the trail.
Now we're getting into the tight switchbacks.
After pulling it out of the way, we pressed on, only to meet our first real challenge of the day. A slick, narrow notch cut into the mountainside, with some rocks on the side, ready to lift the car and throw off our traction. Now pushing nearly 2,000 meters of elevation, the Forester was beginning to feel the effects of the thinning air. So, with some momentum, I hit the notch, and for a second, we were climbing. Well, until the driver's side hit the rocks and lifted the passenger side. The one tire spun hopelessly in the slick dirt, leaving me stuck. Backing up, I tried again, but with the same result. Spinning tires and no forwards momentum.
And at 2,000 meters of elevation, the mountain beat us. So, as I said, we did get a lot of rain out here, and well, the trail's starting to show that. It wasn't bad down below, but we've got into this very, very muddy section, which has a couple cross-axle parts. It would be doable if you fully sent it and you didn't care about your vehicle and you didn't care about the 8-hour drive home. Like, we could do that, but we gotta drive home. And we actually are gonna do some more trails on this adventure. So I don't wanna go ahead and thrash my Forester on this single trail, but to just give you a better idea of what was happening, we were trying to get on this little plateau here, and you can see that it's all runoff right here. And that runoff has made this trail absolutely sopping wet. And as you see, I just spun. It was impossible to get any traction. If I had a winch and my winch was set up, I can winch up here. The issue is then Jeff doesn't have a winch, and then we have to figure out how to get Jeff up here. We could winch both cars, but that'd be a little sketchy. And really, this is all a part of the venture. Sometimes you just don't make it up the trail you're expecting to. We are so close. You can literally see the alpine kind of as the trees break over, but it's a win or lose. We took the risk of coming out here when they got like 100 mil of rain in the last 2 days. Like, we went through literally a storm down there, and there was power lines that were broken in half and the transformers were sitting on the ground. So we knew the risk coming up here that we might not make it up, and that's what happens sometimes. So it was still a lot of fun. That just means that you guys are going to have to check out my original video where this wasn't a thing and we made it up in the Forester, or you're just going to have to subscribe for when we make it up here maybe next summer, because the winter, this is impassable. I would be like 6 feet deep in snow. So you're just gonna have to stay tuned to check it out. Maybe the Forester will have a few more mods that makes it even easier, and we will make it up here and you'll finally get to see the alpine. But with that being said, we gotta go ahead, make our way back down the mountain, because as I said, we're 2,000 meters. We started at like 1,000, 1,200. So we've got almost 1,000 meters of vertical to go ahead and figure out. So that's what we're gonna do.
With no room to turn around up here, I had no choice but to back down the entire switchback to the nearest corner where I could finally get spun around. and even in reverse, the trail showed just how slick it really was, locking up as I skid across the muddy terrain.
I just want to show you a little bit more of what we're looking at. You can see right here that my tracks were just like, where my tracks were, it's just slick. It's just, this mud is actually reminds me a lot of McLean Creek, where it's just super slick and you're kind of toast when you spun. If this was dry, honestly, wouldn't really be an issue.
But eventually, with the cars back at the corner, we managed to get turned around and retrace our path. This was a solid reminder that off-roading, especially on a venture like this, isn't always about reaching the summit. It's about problem solving and understanding when to calculate the risks. And in this case, it was the smartest decision not to push any farther. As we made our descent, we carefully navigated through the trees and switchbacks, mindful of the gravity that kept pulling us down. We kept our speed in check before finally finding a spot to pull over and take a much needed break.
And well, with the cars turned around and back on one of these kind of corners on the switchback, we decided we might as well have some lunch, because we were originally planning to have some lunch at the top of the mountain in the alpine, but obviously that's not going to happen if we can't get up there. So we're having some lunch here and we're going to make our way kind of down. As you can see, we're still in kind of the sub-alpine here, so it's not too bad. But once we get into the lower section where we get back into the boulders, we're going to be getting all the pinstripes on the car. I can't wait to wash the car and just see how many more pinstripes, because I have waxed my car before. It just gives more and more pinstripes all the time. So we're going to go ahead, hit the trail, and make our way back down the mountain.
With lunch wrapped up, we continued our descent out of the subalpine, giving us another opportunity to enjoy the breathtaking views of the mountains all around us. I decided to take the fun line, flexing the Forester over some rough terrain before dropping back into the dense brush. As we pushed through the thick alders, both cars picked up their fair share of pinstripes. But we made quick progress on the way down, crawling over the loose rocks with ease. After another good half hour of carefully descending the mountain, we navigated the final few switchbacks and eventually pulled back into the trailhead, marking the end of another challenging but amazing adventure.
And well, there we go. We made it back down the mountain that beat us. As I said, we've done this before in the Forester when the trail was a little bit easier, but this time it was unfortunately just that hard and that slick that we weren't able to do it. So if you do want to see us complete this trail, you're just gonna have to subscribe, and we're just gonna have to return next year, because in the winter this will be unpassable. It'll probably be like this deep of snow right here. So we'll have to come back in the summer, so hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. And while you're down there, drop a comment, let me know if you would ever attempt this trail in your Subaru, And also check out Flat 4 Off-Road for building all your Subarus here in Canada, as well as the channel memberships that help me do amazing things like this. And before you go, if you're looking for more adventures like this, make sure you stay tuned, because this is one of 3 more videos that we're going to be doing here in beautiful British Columbia, exploring some of the places. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys next week in our next adventure.